All right, so episode 43 or 44, we got a super special guest. We have Youssif Hemida here, uh, section champ, state champ, two-time NCAA All-American out of Maryland, is on the Olympic ladder now. I believe he's like fourth or fifth on the Olympic ladder. Am I right on that, Youssif?
So some along those lines there,
On there.
6, 7. It depends, on the tournament how I do, but
Yeah, but you're in that mix right there. And
yeah.
U23 champ recently won University National Trials, beating Andy Cassiope in the finals. I was heavyweight there, who's a competitor. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Also was a U23 world finalist, I think 2018.
Yes, sir.
Losing to the Russian in the finals, but had a great tournament. And I think I was talking to Coach Sabellis about this yesterday. To me, it's between Brian Rebuto and Youssif for the most successful guys coming out of Section 1. Steven, obviously, Rodriguez was very successful as well, but, multiple-time All-American, both Brian and Youssif, and then Youssif kind of took it, I think, up another notch with his international pedigree. So, Youssif, how we ask everybody, basically every single interview we've had so far, how'd you get in wrestling in the first place? How'd you start doing this?
Oh, I love that question because it's always the same answer. So I remember I moved from Queens to Westchester County. And I lived in an apartment complex, right? And I would see all these kids coming home from like soccer practice, baseball, and their cleats and stuff. And I just moved in. My parents didn't really, weren't too involved in youth sports growing up and stuff. And I'll be like, oh, I want to get started in that. I want to get started in some sports. They're just like, oh, I don't know. Like they didn't exactly know how, like where to look for and where recreation sports are. Eventually I did get started with sports. Then one time I got a flyer in the mail for wrestling, like youth wrestling, Tiger Cub wrestling. So Marionette wrestling was the Tiger. So it's Tiger Cub wrestling, right? I get this flyer and I remember my mom asked me, you want to wrestle? I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And it was super like the youth program, and it's gotten a lot better. Larchmont Marionette Youth Wrestling Club. But at the time, it was just super relaxed. The coach there was having us in for practice in the high school room. I think it was right after the high school practice for about 2 hours, twice a week for 6 weeks. Like really minimal. We didn't compete. We just like bare bones basic, played some games, had fun with it, And I started that in 4th grade, and I believe I did it for 2 years. I think I did it in 4th and 5th grade. And I think the coach at the time got a little sick in 6th grade, so I didn't do it. And I started modified wrestling in 7th grade. That was a lot of fun, just kind of like I was a very physical kid. I just like to get hands-on. And, it was just that's how I got started. So that's kind of the story. I just got a little flyer in the mail and got started. All my family my uncle had wrestled a little bit in high school and NYU his 1st year and 4th year, but he stopped his mid 2 years, 2nd and 3rd, he didn't become a doctor, so focus on that. But I didn't have any like influence really for wrestling, but that's I just started a simple flyer.
That's what's funny about that, Youssif. That's basically how Coach Sabellis runs his youth program, our youth program, I guess, at Greeley. But Coach Sabellis kind of takes full control of that because he's so good with the youth kids. I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like what would you say, Coach Sabellis? You could jump in on this. I feel like that's how you get somebody into the sport, right? Like it has to be kind of like that. In most cases, to keep them interested. If it's not fun, if it's a little bit too intense off the jump, I think it's a little bit hard to, stick with it. What do you think, Coach Sabellis?
Well, it's tough. You can have a really strong youth team, and then the next year you're going to lose. Let's say you have 30, you're going to come back with 15. And then it just kind of filters down to that's 2 or 3 kids in each grade that you need to have a successful high school team, So if you started in the youth and went all the way through, chances are you were all section or better,
Well, a little better, but
obviously Youssif, he's the beast.
But what I was going to say too is you have to think about this, and Youssif, you could jump in on this real quick too if you have an opinion on it. Is I feel like a youth program like that will build the foundation, and then it's up to you if you want to take it to another level, right? Because obviously Youssif being a U23 world finalist, a guy that's on the Olympic ladder, that's challenging the best guys in the world, training with the best guys in the world, that he took it to the highest level, right? But he didn't have to do that, but he had that foundation that the Marinette's youth program did for him. And he's like, all right, I like this. Now let me take it up a notch. And I feel like that's the way to do it. What do you think, Youssif?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of like schools of like, they're not schools of thought per se, but just a lot of thoughts for youth wrestling. And the two things I am not personally a fan of for like where youth wrestling is like the idea like to like find a love for the sport. Wrestling is a very hard but a very rewarding and a very um it's intense, but it has a lot of reward. I'm blanking on the word. It has a lot of reward to it, you know. And the thing about it is that when you're a youth and you're getting pushed or you're cutting weight and you're competing, it's tough, you know. And I think other sports is maybe not as serious, but I think you're starting youth, just teach the fundamentals, make it fun, develop them as athletes. So you know, um, tumbling and stuff like that, and playing games because. I think it's important for that. You know, I think competing, the idea of like a youth national champ is kind of silly to me. You know, like you don't need to be a youth national champ. You know, even if you can compete, but I think it even should be an age. You know, it should be about getting out there and trying to just set some fundamentals, but also just start to, you know, just develop yourself and get used to the sport because it can be brutal. You know, and like, you know, little kids cutting weight, it's a little crazy sometimes. And some of those kids, I mean, I know for you see like Kerry Colak, for example, you know, his dad pushed him really hard. He became really, really good. But he also has some issues with the relationship with his father. And I'm not going to speak on that too much, but it's the idea of just like, you know, you can see, you know, Flow Wrestling cover that and just the idea that like, you know, you can get pushed too hard and it can really like deter you from the sport. And some guys can, you know, make it out, but some people, I think it's too much. And I think for a sport like wrestling, we need to get as many people as we can involved. So ultimately, yeah, youth wrestling, I really think that it should be about like keeping it fun, keeping it light, making it exciting. And even as you go up the ladder or as you go up in age, that should happen too. But I was actually kind of grateful that like I didn't have the pressure of my parents. It was all intrinsically motivated for me, and I fell in love with the sport. I think that's the best way to do it for any sport, really. You know, a lot of times people get, like you said, the flyer thing, or just getting, you have parents or some kind of influence that gets you to start. But like once you get started, it should be fun at first, just like any sport though too, but especially wrestling.
I really like that. That's a good answer. And Coach DeBellis, this could be for both of you guys, really. It's just my thought process and thinking about it. You hear guys come out, you know, you hear a guy like Youssif, right, who's training alongside the best guys in the world, and that's his mentality now. And then you hear a guy like Ben Askren, who has like a bunch of clubs now, and he's really against, and obviously a super successful wrestler, and he's kind of against pushing youth guys really hard. He doesn't have his kids compete until like 7th or 8th grade. Or maybe 6th, but like he doesn't like he doesn't have 3rd graders, you know, going there and doing crazy stuff. And you see these guys kind of changing their philosophy a little bit because, you know, like Youssif said, I think something that really stuck out what you said, Youssif, was we want as many people in the sport as possible, you know, and what's going on with COVID and stuff, it's not easy. So I think especially with the climate that we're in now, we need to find ways to keep kids engaged and keep them into it. But to speak a little bit on the Kerry Colak things, I watched that Flow documentary. Yep. They definitely did not see eye to eye probably later in their lives. I hope they're fine now, but you know, it's just tough. It's tough. I mean, I've been coaching for a while now, and I've seen kids get pushed really hard at a young age, and they're nowhere to be found anymore. You know, they couldn't do it. You know, and then you look at a guy like PJ, and I'm not saying Pete pushed him too hard. I'm not really, you know, Pete's a great guy. I like Pete a lot. And maybe he knew his son better than everybody else knew his son, right? Like, PJ was able to do it. PJ is the prototype. I mean, not the prototype. He's like the opposite. He's against the rule in a sense. Like, he thrived. Yeah, like you said, Youssif, he thrived, and he's unbelievably good. And I think he really loves it. I think he really loves to work that hard. I think he really loves to train. I think that's like his thing. And Pete saw it and felt it, and they did it, and he's unbelievable. But with that being said, you're not going to find too many. Like, the problem is people try to emulate him, and then they burn out because they can't, you know. And I think
or compare your own kids to them.
Yeah, like they're supposed to be.
Like I do.
Yeah.
I was like, Nikki, I think PJ would be at practice right now.
Yeah.
Me too. But like, Youssif, what do you think about this? I have actually a question for you because I've talked to DeBellis about this before, and then obviously we'll get more into your career. But I've talked to DeBellis about this. And DeBellis has kind of talked to me about this in the same kind of thing, is like when Nikki or Jake are giving him a hard time, he'll call me sometimes to talk to his boys because he doesn't want to like be that guy, right? But I also say when Luca, I mean, he's almost a year. He's not even a year old yet. But he, I hope he wrestles. I think he will probably. I don't want to coach him. I don't want to coach him whatsoever. I want him to wrestle because all the great things it's done for me. but I don't want to coach him. But you know, if a guy like Youssif's still in town and he's back in New York and he's doing his own wrestling thing, I'd send him to Youssif in a second, right? I'd send him to, you know, Jacob. I send him to Kevin Jack. I send him to RJ, Camacho, AJ, whoever's around that I've coached in the past. I would send him, and maybe I would have some communication with them saying, yeah, push them hard. But I wouldn't want to be that guy that's laying the hammer down, because I think it would create. I'd rather be dad. You know, I think it would create you know, a bad relationship between my son and I. And the one thing I would want him to do is just, you know, hold yourself accountable. If you say you're going to do something, do it, you know, keep commitments. But other than that, I don't want to be in it. What do you think about that, Youssif?
That's interesting. I do think about that, you know, because I plan to have kids one day, you know, and you sometimes just kind of wonder, like, how would you push your kids? You see some parents trying to live vicariously through their kids, and it can get kind of bad. And you know, you hear that it's kind of cliche, but let the spectators spectate, the coaches coach, let the referees ref, let the parents support. You know, and be a parent. You know, the thing about that's tricky is that you have so much wrestling knowledge you can offer to your kid. Yeah. You don't want to coach them, but like you also want to be a parent. But at the same time, you can maybe be like, work on this, right? That's the kind of thing too. Is like I think about is like, well, first of all, backtrack just a little bit. The idea that like I would love my kids. I would love if I have a kid, for my kids to wrestle, right? The idea if I had kids, like I would like them to wrestle because it did a lot for me. But it's okay, you know. I want them to pursue something. I want them to be passionate about something, whether it be a sport, an instrument, you know, art. It doesn't matter, right? That's what's kind of important. But if they do decide to go the wrestling route, you know, I want to be able to. I think I would want them to have. I wouldn't want to coach them, right? And even if let's say I got into coaching, or I was like, you know, on the weekends, whatever, helping out, or going to a club on, you know, a couple of days a week, whatever it may be, I wouldn't want to be coaching them morning practices when they're in it, right? But I would like to, you know, in a tournament or something afterwards, after a match, you know, let their coaches talk to them, let their coaches coach them, and maybe after the whole event, right? I would be like, hey, you know, at least work on this a little bit, you know, you're standing up in your stance, you know, you weren't level changing well.
Do you know who said that? Do you know who said the same thing that you're saying? Is Terry Brands. Like, I guess there was some sort of interview because his son wrestles for Iowa.
Yeah, that's actually pretty crazy.
And somebody asked him, like, you know, how do you handle that thing? And he goes, well, now he's one of my athletes, so now I coach him because he's in Iowa. But he goes, when he was a high school kid, I would help him only when he would ask me for help.
That's another good one, yeah.
His coaches were his coaches. So, for example, tell me what you guys think about this. So, DeBellis has met my nephew. He's 7. But he's my oldest nephew, right? I have a 7-year-old nephew, a 3-year-old nephew, and then a 1-year-old son. So my 7-year-old nephew has come to youth practice a little bit. He's a little shy and whatever, but he likes wrestling. He knows his uncle like is the coach, and you know it's fun and whatever. So last night, whenever he comes over to my house, he loves to wrestle around. But he'll wrestle with my dad, and then he'll wrestle with me. And of course, it's obviously fun. Like I'm joking around and we're laughing and whatever. Yeah. But I stopped him a couple times, and of course, but like smile, like laughing, like Jack, like if you put your head down like that and somebody snaps you, you're just gonna fall on your face. Yeah. like little things like that. Like, but like I am kind of coaching him, but I'm not laying the hammer on him.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like I'm helping him. I'm like, hey man, like you probably don't want to do that. Like, or look, dude, you have a calf. My arm's posted like that. Just scoop that sucker in there. Or here's a cradle. Like, take the cradle. But I'm not going to, you know, maybe I'll watch film. Like you said, we'll go over some technique. But I'm not going to wake him up at 5 a.m. and say, hey, should you go for a run right now? You know, I'm not going to be that guy, I don't think. But
you might.
I might.
You might.
I might have a hard time.
Might.
But listen, this goes for everybody that actually watches these. This goes for Youssif and Coach DeBellis. I do not want to be that guy. So if I start becoming that guy, pull me back.
It's hard. I think it's harder. It's easier said than done. When you watch,
it's easier said than done.
Outside perspective, when you get into it, you're like, oh, it's your kid. You want him to win, so you want to.
Don't want him to lose. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing you're talking about, it's just like positive reinforcement, right? You're being super positive. You're being playful. You're joking about it. It's not serious. Yeah. You know, and you're aware of that. But when you say like, don't do that, you know, you yell at them, it's like seems like a punishment.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's when it gets kind of bad. And like going back to the thing you said with Coach Brands, Terry Brands, like that's a great idea too. Just like unless they ask, they know you know wrestling, they can ask you. You know, let the coaches coach it. You know, and you can also it might be kind of difficult to separate that like parent and then coach. You can maybe kind of be a coach in some aspect, but at the same time you want to be a parent first. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I think with a lot, Youssif, and I don't know if you agree with this, Coach DeBellis, this is a question for you as well. I think with a lot of our athletes that we have, and I'm talking about Empire kids and I'm talking about Greeley kids, my goal always is character first, right? So I think I think I would push Luka to be a good kid. Like, I think he would have a hard time for me if I heard he was being a bully or he was slacking and doing, that I might have a problem with. But if he goes out there and wrestles a Youssif Hemida type and gets tacked, but he tried his hardest, I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care. Like, if you went out there and you fought your hardest, hey, whatever. But anyways, let's not get too far into Luka because he's only 1 year old, so I'll leave him alone. But Coach DeBellis, you want to hear something funny? Youssif Hemida lived in the same complex as Coach Marino when he was a little kid.
Oh, I know. I meant to call you today and say Marino should be on this because he has a good story about an igloo.
An igloo or a snowman? What'd you do to his igloo, Youssif?
Marino?
Yeah, something about.
You knocked his igloo down or a snowman down?
In a complex in Mamaroneck with Marino. He was the assistant coach at Greeley, ball guy, stocky, and he always would tell us this story about how you guys had like his kids built an igloo and you and your friends from the neighborhood like crushed it or something.
What's his first name?
Anthony. Also.
Anthony.
Okay, yeah, no, I think I remember that. He didn't live there for that long. Or
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was scared off the block.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like an apartment complex, and I don't know. Like I said, that physical kid, and like, I think you see like a nice orderly snowman or igloo, whatever, and you want to just like destroy it. Like they kind of like kid. The kid was near, a house, a deck of the house of cards, not the house of cards, like a nice card thing, or just like a good puzzle, whatever. Just wanted to smash it because it's fun to see things, disorder, destruction, because you're a little knucklehead. So I see that. I think I just like ran into it and just like knocked it down. Just because it's like, you're being a little kid having fun, but also being an idiot, and that's the kind of things I would do, and like I'd piss off the neighbors so much. I mean, I had neighbors coming up to the door being like, you can't do that, or like the neighbors calling out these old people, if we're just being kids and they're like, oh, get off the grass, I guess for them it gives them some excitement in their boring lives, but like there's so many people just kind of, and like obviously like knocking someone's snow sculpture is one thing, but little kids playing, that's another, or like kids yelling at like people would do chalk on the
That's
floor.
so annoying here.
Yeah, and they'd be like, they sent out a memo saying it looks like graffiti, you're lowering the property value. I'm just like, if you're a family, which families live there, you're gonna like that their kids drawing like little chalk things.
Used up mad. He's having flashbacks from these annoying neighbors. DeBellis is that guy. DeBellis sends out memos.
He did, yeah.
Never.
Stay off the grass, kids.
Never, ever. DeBellis would say, get on the grass. Have fun.
Yeah, it's crazy too. Sorry, you flashed me back. Another thing is like, we used to play right in the front there. There's nice little grass area, play soccer and stuff, and kickball, whatever, you name it. Yeah. And then they stuck some trees there. So then they'd be like small little trees. So it's just like, it made it so much harder for us to play. And every now and then, that's funny. every now and then, like we'd be playing. We didn't care. Some kid these little other tree posts would hold it up and be like a wire. So sometimes you're running back when you don't see it, you slam into it, So eventually we got off it, They kicked us off and they actually put us in the back of the complex where there's a little more grass space, but it's not as like accessible per se. But yeah, I just went a little tangent there because it just.
Oh, right. That's what these are all about. What's funny? If people actually really listen to these, they'll find some interesting stories in there that have nothing to do with wrestling, but I love it.
Yeah, I don't think we talked about wrestling yet. We're 15 minutes in.
No, we talked about it a little bit. We talked about youth wrestling and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? Let's jump back on track here because I was thinking that in my head. I met you when you were in 9th or 10th grade, I believe. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe 9th grade, the summer of 9th grade going into 10th grade. But
when I first came to John's, when you first met me in like high school, like a match or something.
I met you when you first came to John's. That's the first time I met you.
Okay. Yeah.
But before we even get there, how is because I know more, obviously. This is me seriously asking because I don't know how you're wrestling. How is your career going, like, as a kid? Like, 7th, 8th grade? What was going on? Like, how was
7th grade, I started wrestling. So the coach, it was the coach's brother, Anthony Vitti, was Matt Vitti. It was his younger brother who did the modified program.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to do the modified program at the time. Great guy.
Anthony Vitti, great guy. Yeah, I used to wrestle against him for our modified. Our modified, I used to always call Anthony.
The varsity coach. And then I helped him in the club program, and then his brother he just did the modified program, right? Just cool guy, just had us there, fundamentals, kept it fun for us, and would get serious sometimes when we were slacking off, whatever it is, just having some reinforcements for not paying attention or not, whatever it may be, right? But point being is that when I started in 7th grade, I started with modified, and it's like I think I remember in 8th grade I was 9-4. In 7th grade though, I think oh man, I'm trying to like positive, like 8-4, 7-4, just a few matches in modified season. Didn't take it serious. I took the season seriously, but like I was so naive in the sport. I didn't know, like, I knew there was Olympics, but like it just didn't like click to me that like there's college wrestling. None of that was in my head. Scholarships. So just like I just thought you just wrestle and that's it. Like you just wrestle. Like I didn't understand even in 7th grade. I didn't understand the idea that like there was like state champ, section champ, there's all the other tournaments you can go to. Like I was very, very naive because I just like didn't know, and I didn't look into it. I didn't have like a smartphone, whatever it was. I just like you just have the season, that's it. Like I didn't think that there was like more to it. So then I started letting more. I started like, man, I kind of like this sport. After 7th and 8th grade, I was just like, this is kind of fun. I enjoy it. I want to take it more seriously. And that's when I started. After freshman year, I was like 22-14. I missed making sectionals by 1 match, and that was like a big deal to me. So it's divisional, sectional, states, right? And I was like, I missed, and I was just like so disheartened. I like hated losing, and I lost a good bit, right? I remember 8th grade, by the way, I was 137, like 5'10". I was like sick and bones, and I went to I was like 170 freshman year. So yeah, freshman year, I started going to Aspen Wrestling Academy with Max Askren. That was great. Really enjoyed him. And then I was a little scared at the time of Iowa Style, now called Empire Wrestling, because you hear things about John, but then you realize like, yeah, you got the old one on. So I went to All-American. It was a small club in Stamford, Connecticut. Because I wanted to get more serious. Started doing off-season wrestling, and I was with Charlie Branch. He was All-American at VMI. And it was like twice a week. I was at a community center. It was like $80 a month, like super cheap. I got a bunch of guys from my team to go there with carpools, all good and fun. I placed a cadet nationals, Fargo 220. It's not a very big bracket, but it was like the first like thing I accomplished in the sport. It was like a big deal to me, and that was going into my sophomore year. Yeah, going into my sophomore year, I placed. I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge.
That's when you started coming to the club, right?
Yeah, I was going into my junior year. Going into my junior year. After sophomore year, yeah, after like spring of sophomore year, I started like, when the club started getting All-American. It just like it was very small. They both had full-time jobs. The coaches and Coach Ross and Charlie Branch, they had full-time jobs. I'm like, let me go try out Iowa. I started coming in just a little bit, right? I wasn't like full-time, but didn't sign anything with John. Kind of just like I would come into like the clinics and stuff. I remember the first day I came with the Torah. He didn't know who I was, right? And we wrestle, and I just like get him in this one position. I jack him up, like drop him off his back.
I remember this.
I remember that so well. He's just like,
before you even say the rest of the story, I want you to tell it because you probably remember better than I do. But I remember you walking into the room and nobody told me actually that you were good, but you had like double knee pads on. You were a big, tall kid.
Yeah.
This kid. And he didn't have a partner, something. I'm like,
yeah.
And I try to do that. Coach Buzz probably sees it. Like if a new kid comes in the room, I'll grab him or I'll try to like, make him feel comfortable and like wrestle around with him and whatever. And he did. He like lifted me up in there and spiked me. I'm like, holy cow, who is this kid? And I had to pick it up a notch. And then we talked a little bit after, and I found out he was a cadet All-American. I'm like, oh, this kid's going to be pretty good. And then he ended up staying. But you tell me more about, because that's all I really remember from that. I don't remember really much of.
I think you hit the head on the nail there. I just remember. Yeah, I think it was like it might have been summer of sophomore because it was after Fargo. I think I might have came in beforehand. I don't know if you were around. I don't know exactly. The timeline's a little bit foggy. But yeah, I remember I came in and some guys knew me and like I had done nothing yet in the section, right? Like sophomore year, I was actually now I'm thinking back to it.
Right?
I hurt my collarbone. I in practice, right?
Yeah.
I was wrestling Dion Durant, a good buddy of mine. and he lifted me up real high. I landed on my shoulder. I had a pop, like just something popping out, right? And I didn't realize. I thought it was like my shoulder at first. I was kind of confused. I was like, you know. And I was like, kind of, you know, practice was finishing. I sat down. And the coach was like, "Oh, it's a stinger, bro. It's a stinger. You're fine. Have some time." And I'm just
It's
like,
a stinger, bro.
moving my shoulder around, like pop, 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 pop. All these pops, and it's really painful, right? I go to the trainer. I pull my, she goes, "Oh, let me see your collarbones." I pull my shirt down. She yells. She's like, "Oh," like she screams. Because like my collarbone was like, not the bone, but it was like protruding. It was sticking out, right? So what had happened, you know, I ended up getting x-rays, saw a doctor that night. I dislocated it, and dislocated it caused it to fracture. So it was pretty bad, you know, like it wasn't surgical. They were worried that it broke outwards. If it breaks inwards, it can puncture your lung, which is bad, you know. So it wasn't like anything serious in the sense of like surgery or bad, but I need to take a good amount of time off. So I got put in a sling, and I was out for the season, right? So here's this kid out for the season, decides to, you know, go to Fargo, All-American, but like he hasn't done anything in the state yet. So like how credible is that you know, like how credible is that? So some people know me, and like I said to Tora, I came into that practice and just kind of like, yeah, double knee pads, no swag, probably not matching my shirt and my shorts, just everything just, and I think I just got in that position, kind of dropped him. To go off that though, so fast forward, I'm starting to come to John's more and more junior year. I think it's one of my most exciting practices, and I don't know if you know the story, but Tora probably remembers it.
I think. Wait, before you go, can I guess?
Yeah.
Old Dominion.
Yeah, so that's it.
Go ahead, tell the story.
This is like, honestly, the most exciting high school practice I've had. So Coach Mike Dixon, a former Old Dominion coach, now he's at Indiana, right? I believe so, Indiana. Yeah, great guy, right? And what's funny is that he had planned to come in to do a clinic for free to see me and Johnny Garcia. So I had already committed. I literally, like, he planned to come in like that Thursday or Friday. It was probably Thursday, right? And I committed to Maryland like on that Tuesday that week. And I told him, and I felt really bad because he really like was there, already planned to come in. And I was interested in Old Dominion, but I kind of was wanting to make a decision, and I was like felt pressured. I'm gonna lose scholarship, whatever, right? So I committed to Maryland. I told him, hey, I committed, but like, it was okay. I'll still come. It was only an oral commitment, or a verbal commitment rather. And I told him, and because I can always change. So I'll come see you anyway, obviously, right? And also Johnny Garcia was interested too. What's funny, I don't think he even showed up to that practice.
typical Johnny Garcia, superstar, but geez Louise.
Yeah, I think for me, so we had a practice. He ran us through a practice, and he's kind of hyped me up. Going, "Oh yeah, some of the best defense in the country." I meet the Torah scrapping, right? And I think it was like next takedown wins, right? And Torah got a takedown earlier. We're going live. He got a takedown earlier, but it was like next takedown wins. And everyone's finishing up. Me and Torah get in there. We're scrapping. I'm trying to get in a leg. He's in a leg. There's no score. And this was a bigger practice. It was like college coach was there, so more kids were there. I guess, 40 kids. You know, everyone's circling around watching. I don't know if they're cheering me on or cheering Torah on. They're like, "Let's go, Youssif!" Everyone's like clapping. It's super exciting. I get the takedown, and then Torah is just there, like so mad. Like, I took him down earlier. You know?
I got it so fast, nobody cared.
I know he got it earlier. And it was just like Dixon was hyping it up too, like, "Oh yeah, down block." And he was also like coaching the Torahs, like, "Oh, get off your leg, take your leg back, stomp the head, whatever," right? And it was just like, it was a lot of fun. I had such a good memory of that practice because it was just.
What grade were you in? Was that your junior year?
That was junior year. No, that was senior year, beginning of senior year.
Beginning of senior year.
Yeah, so I was a little bit bigger, probably. I was like 215. You probably like what, 180, 170?
Yeah, 75, yeah. 70. But like, interesting. And we'll get back. Youssif was probably the first high school guy. Now that I'm getting older, there's more high school guys that do this. But Youssif was probably the first high school guy that would like regularly score on me, right? And I would have to like really wrestle with him. But your sophomore year, I think you got that one score, and then after.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like.
I don't think for a while.
It was for a long time.
Yeah. But I knew he was going to be good, and then Coach Sabellas, you remember this because. And we'll jump back into that senior year, and we'll talk about that whole Old Dominion thing, which was a lot of fun because it was fun. I actually, you know what, being that you brought it up, I'll bring it up too a little bit because it was hysterical. Because I think I said this with Malikian the other day, but they all think I don't want them to beat me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a competitor. I don't like to lose. But at the same time, I like it when they're doing well, right? So it's like, it's a good thing that they're getting better at wrestling. But I do remember that like yesterday, because the whole club, we were the last two.
Yeah,
The
it
whole
was
club was
a good amount, I thought a good amount of people there. They're all
a lot of
circling.
people.
Let's go.
And we were going, if I remember correct, I could be wrong, but there was like scrambles involved. There was a lot.
Yeah.
It was like rough. It was a go.
No, we were going at it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Youssif ended up getting it. And it definitely, you said, like, I don't know if they're rooting for me or rooting against me. They were Team Youssif.
Yeah, I think they were like, they're all like, let's go. They were like all like cheering or clapping. Like,
and when they got, I heard the twos. I might have got a grip. He might have yelled the two at me.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. He definitely did. Like, put in the middle, like, two.
Yeah. So that's a lot of fun. But obviously Youssif got really good. But what I wanted to jump into was his junior year was really interesting, because Youssif, you were injured again, right? You were out for a lot of your year.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Tell the story. You were out, then I'll tell you how me and DeBellis had to talk to some people before sectionals. I'm like, this kid's coming. But
so from sophomore year, I'm starting to come to the club. Like after sophomore year in the summer, I had just All-American cadets. I had like some good steamroll. I had some good things going on. At the time, so junior year, the beginning of junior year, I think I was both. I think I was coming to Iowa style a little bit, or Empire Wrestling, and All-American. So what happened was I was wrestling Charlie Branch, right? And the time he's like 170, solid, man. This dude, I mean, he's All-American at VMI. He was really, he gave me some really good goals when I was in high school, obviously. He whooped me up, and he was so much shorter than me, and he would give it to me. So one day I was shooting, I tried to shoot a blast double, head down, right? And I feel these like cracks go down my neck, right? And or it pops, and I thought it was like my knuckle popping, right? So I kind of ignore. I'm like, it kind of hurt, whatever. So that was like fall of my junior year, right? So not wrestling like September around that time. Month goes by, October. When do you start the wrestling season? November in high school?
Yeah.
November. So we start preseason like mid-October, right? And my neck's, it's bothering me this whole time. From the time in September till mid-October, it's just aching me, nothing crazy, right? And over time, it just gets a little worse. I'm like, I got a foam roller. I'm trying to roll it out, a cross ball. I got a heating pad for it. I'm doing all these little things. And I'm just like, it's really bothering me, And the one day in practice, it was a preseason practice, we're doing those spin drills, right? Coaches love. My high school coach loved it in the preseason practice, right? And every time you come around, you're supposed to push the head, right? So you spin, pushing my head. I was like, this hurts too much. Like, I gotta stop. I told him, hey, I asked the trainer, like, this is like bad, not bad, just like, I don't know, like from the simple drill, like it's hurting my neck. Like, this is not normal. And it wasn't anything excruciating though, right? So I go see the trainer. She's just like, she examines me, got full range of motion, probably no herniated disc, everything kind of seems okay. She's like, yeah, go get an x-ray, I was really worried about it. I'm like, yeah, I'll go get it. Like, she didn't think it was a big deal. Get the x-ray, right? Go to school the next day, no big deal. And then, so I got x-ray that night, go to school the next day, and my dad calls me, and I was like really worried about it. So I leave the class to go answer the call. And he's just like, no, it's like pretty serious. You got to see the doctor. You got to see the orthopedic surgeon, right? You got to see the doctor. And I go in that afternoon to see the doctor, and he tells me, like, he shows me the x-ray. And he, like, I see the neck, and you don't have to be a radiologist to see that. But, like, he goes, yeah, your neck has a curvature one way, right? It's called lordosis. And my neck was, like, curved the other way. And that's because at that time, that injury, like, the ligaments had, like, pulled on the tip of the bone in my neck, right? And it caused, like, a slight fracture. And over time, it was kind of pulling it. It messed up a little bit of the curvature of my neck. And he's just like, you're going to need an MRI, and for right now, I'm going to put you in a neck brace. So I went from thinking like it was like a small, like muscular thing to literally being in a stiff neck brace. You can't turn your chin in, right? I came to school the next day with that on. So the whole seat, like, so I had to wear that for these 4 weeks. And after that, do 4 weeks of right? And from there, I had to get a waiver because this is my junior year. I mean, this is a huge year for recruiting. Like, I was, not depressed, but I was down. Like, I was really down. And I was like worried that, like, I'm not wrestling in college. I'm gonna get a scholarship. Like, that's what I was working towards. Like, all these things were going through my mind. Like, what if I can never wrestle again? It's my neck. It's not my knee. It's not a shoulder. It's like, this is you can't mess with this thing, right? And the doctor cleared me. I got a special waiver. I wrestled one match against Khalid Hassan. And we all know Khalid. Right? I wrestled one match against Khalid Hassan. I just another story about that I can get into later. But
That's so funny that he's the one though. But go on.
yeah, and I had a special weight. You have to weigh in 6 times. I didn't do that because I had an injury and I healed from it. Doctor wasn't crazy about it. I explained to him, hey, I really want to wrestle. It's really important to me. The nurses were just like, why? Like, be smart, whatever. But like, they had to clear me. I was able to wrestle divisionals. Went 3-0 there. Coming to sectionals. Who the heck is this guy? Like,
What seed were you?
What do you mean?
He was like a 7
seed. You were like, no, you were lower.
14, like 13 or 14 seed, right? And then I just come out there and I'm scrapping. Like I knew I could wrestle. I haven't wrestled in a while. Oh, and to rewind too, while I was in that neck brace, I was training like a madman. So I would ask the doctor, what can I do? What will you let me do? What is okay? He goes, anything lower body. So I would be in the other room. So we had like a little fitness room next to the wrestling room. I'd be on the bike doing like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And I'm really like.
Is this at Mamaroneck or at the club?
This is at Mamaroneck, right?
Okay.
During the season, instead of practicing, I would like bust my ass on the cycling bike or the cycling bike. Not the Aerodyne, just legs. I didn't want anything arms, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't want me to. I couldn't grab dumbbells. I could just do like leg press, Aerodyne, and I would like. Sometimes I remember one time I was going so hard, and this is just when I hurt my neck, or like a couple weeks after, I like screamed. I was like, I was like going so hard. The coach comes running in because he thought like I had fallen or something, and he just sees me just drenched in sweat. Like, are you okay? I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going hard, and like the ski team, because they can't go skiing all the time, would come in and like work out there, and they all see me. They thought I was like, nuts. Like I'd be in there, headphones on, like hood on, just like neck brace on, pedaling on a bike. That's how bad I wanted it, and I wanted anything I could to get it. And yeah, like I said, I went into sectionals, 14 or 13 seed. Ended up upsetting John Hartnett, the returning champ, in the semis, and that kid from Mayopac, I can't remember his name.
Delhaney.
Delaney?
Delhaney.
Yeah, Delhaney. Yeah. Beat him in the finals, and then went out to states. Went 3-2 there. Nothing crazy. I took 6/7th, which is kind of funny. 6th place in public school, 7th place in federation, because Rich Sisti was a state champ, but he was only the federation state champ. Because you know how that works. In New York, you can like there's a public.
Brock his senior year. Yeah.
What's that?
Same thing happened to Brock his senior year because it keeps you 4th in your weight.
Yeah, so he takes like you place 2 different ways. It's kind of interesting. So yeah, that's ultimately what happened with my neck, and I end up not doing well in the season. But after that, I go into Flow Nationals. I take second. Or no, before that, I'm sorry. I go to Virginia, and like John's like saying, you got to go to everything you can, So I went to Virginia Beach Nationals. I took 7th there, which is good. Getting some notice there, but like still, coach was just like, oh, we didn't do anything in states. They want state champs, right? They want guys who can place at Fargo, Super 32, whatever flow, but they probably want a state champ or a state placer, right? And I was barely a state placer. And the next, so I went to Virginia Beach, took 7th there, beat some decent guys. I think I'd be like maybe 1 ranked guy. And then the following weekend, it was Flow Nationals. I'm like, John, I just wrestled. I don't want to wrestle again. I'm like, I need to take a break. He's like, that's the opposite what you need to do. You need to wrestle as much as you can. It convinced me to go. End up taking 2nd there. And now I was like, oh, who's this Hemida kid? I was trying to get more notice. But still, I think coach was a little bit afraid. Then I went to Fargo. I placed at Fargo, and that's when my stock went up. Right? That's when, coach started calling me more. Coaches that I remember I was emailing. I had this like generic email I sent to all these coaches with like my GPA, my stats, like updates or what I just wrestled at, I even put extracurricular activities there because I thought they cared about that. I had this email, I was filling out questionnaires fully, and like the college coach once is probably gonna find you and contact you, but I was like emailing coach. I give my Coach McCoy some crap about it sometimes. I say like, you didn't email me back until after I placed at Fargo, which what happened. And like some coaches started calling me, like in Minnesota started recruiting me. They were number 2 in the country at the time. I was like, this is a big deal, and I started getting some attention, which like it felt great because I was like so worried that like I wasn't gonna be able to like get recruited, get scout, anything like that, because I hadn't placed at states. But after those 3 tournaments, it kind of like All-American 3 times, so that kind of like helped me. And senior year wrestled, 1 state title. But yeah, sorry, I know I kind of went off a long little ramble there, but just the whole idea is junior year, like it it was rough, but like I kind of had the mindset of just like I make the best of the situation, right? So,
But we all, to interject a little bit, is what I want to say before too, kind of, is we all knew you were that guy, right? Unfortunately, you had an injury, but I remember before the section tournament, and you were coming in as the 14th seed. I think I remember saying to you, Coach Chabos, or maybe I said to Coach Marino, but I'm like, no, this kid's gonna win the tournament. Like,
well, at the seeding meeting, it was a big discussion, but because you didn't have a lot of matches and you didn't have any prior stuff, so the mechanics were already in place. You couldn't do anything, and everybody was like, "This kid's gonna break open this whole bracket. It's gonna, you know." And then you did. You went on to beat the section champ from the year before, and then you beat the kid from APAC, who was the section champ the next year.
Yeah, but who was nowhere near, either of them ended up being anywhere near Youssif's level. But that's not a disrespect to them, that's just honesty, right? But
yeah, but like you're saying, Youssif went 9 for whatever he did his freshman year, and then sophomore and junior year, he didn't have any matches.
So I went 22-14 my freshman year. I actually had 6 matches my sophomore year. I was 6-0. And junior year, I had 1 match leading up to divisional. So I had under my belt over 3 years, 29 wins, 22-6, 29 wins. Which is like, and it's like, and then 6 of them were from the last year. Like, so that it made sense why I got that seed, you know.
Do you know what's crazy, Youssif, is what you were saying before. Like, he didn't have that driving force of somebody making him do all of this either.
But Coach, just to go back to that, do you know we changed the rules after that? And now one of the criteria is common sense.
Oh.
No, this is a fact.
Really?
There's a criteria, common sense. So we could say, well, listen, it just doesn't make any sense, which is cool.
Yeah.
We could call it the Youssif Hemida rule.
I was gonna say, they should call it the Youssif Hemida rule.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
But Youssif, think about this, dude. Think about like how what he was saying before. Like his dad, like, you know, they liked that he wrestled and whatever, I'm sure, but they weren't like, you know, wrestling wasn't the family sport. It wasn't like they all knew about this for forever, like whatever. Like his uncle wrestled a little bit, but to deal with all those setbacks and still want it that badly, to me proves that you don't need to be that psychopath, crazy guy in the 3rd or 4th grade, right?
Exactly.
Like it could still come. You look at a guy like Jerome Burroughs. I don't think he started a little younger, but there's some guys that are superstars that started in 7th, 8th grade. You know, it's not the end of the world. But let's jump into, actually, before we do, I actually have a question because I forgot. When you were a junior, you were in your neck brace. Did you still come to club practice a lot? I don't remember.
No, I don't think I did. I think maybe a couple times I might have came by, and I think a couple times when I got better, I like would come to the club practice a couple times, and John like would be like super easy drilling, like no one touches your neck. You just drill with a couple people. Yeah, no one touches your head rather, and he's just being really like, because I think Iowa can be really smart, like Dan Gable and you know, he can wrestle for them and stuff. He like can be really smart, like do as much as you can, but be smart about it. And something suggestion one time was just like hand fight for 2 minutes with each guy on the team, from lightweight to heavyweight, but they don't touch your neck. You only do that. He would suggest like it was kind of radical, like in a practice, like hey, I'm gonna go 2 minutes with you, 2 minutes with you, but like 20 guys, you know, he had some interesting ideas, you know, and like I think I would in high school or in some of the practices that might have been like Mike Long, a couple guys around my weight, I would just kind of like drill on, they wouldn't drill on me, and a couple things. He kind of helped me out there my junior year, leading up to states too, because I was the first ever section champ. And like I remember to rewind just a little bit, I might have been sophomore year or freshman year, even I don't know, but like I remember the schedule had the divisional tournament on it and the sectional tournament. It did not have the state tournament on the schedule, and I was just like, why don't you have the state tournament on it? And he's just like, well, we'll talk about it if someone makes it, because there's never been a section champ, so it wasn't even like a thought. Like, okay, like sectional season's over, so just limiting us.
Romarnik didn't have a section champ until Youssif.
Ever, never had it.
I remember.
We had one state qualifier, Ben Miller. He got a wild card, but he decided that he didn't want to go out there. And at the time, like he felt like he was gonna go. You know, he wanted to go on vacation or spend time with his family. He's kind of done with the sport, which I respect too. Like, we had a state qualifier, but never a section champ, but never someone to wrestle at the states. So it was just like, okay, well, I guess we're here now, you know, junior year. But yeah, like John helped me out with that and stuff. And But yeah, like, going back to that like intrinsic value at the time too, to mention is like my dad was, they're just like, hey, it seemed like this. I was injured all my sophomore year. I was injured my junior year. It's just like, do you want to keep doing this? Like almost like the thought is like quitting. It's not like stopping the sport. So that's kind of came into my mind too. Like, what if I stopped? What if I you know, didn't wrestle? Because it's just like I haven't. But I don't let that deter me. I was like, no, there's nothing that's gonna stop me right now. The doctor kept clearing me. He goes, be smart. You keep, he saw me winning. Saw me in the newspaper. He goes, he felt comfortable with it. He goes, you keep winning, and I'm gonna let you keep wrestling. Like not keep wrestling, but as long as you feel okay, like use pain as your guidance.
Keep going.
Keep going. So, yeah.
So let's jump into your senior year a little bit because there's an interesting caveat here. What, you like that word caveat?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I read dictionaries. But actually, Youssif used a word earlier that was pretty impressive, and I wish I wrote it down. Intrinsic, maybe? Intrinsic?
Intrinsic motivation, like coming from the internal.
Inside, I like that. Fancy.
Yeah, a little psychology.
But anyhow, his senior year, for the people that are listening, it was a real interesting wrinkle because probably the best guy in the Greeley room at the time is where, and for the people, I feel like everybody that's watching this knows that that's where I coached the high school. But was Brock Shianovich. He was a state qualifier, I believe, at 195 the year before. He was the runner-up and bumped up to 220. And I think he could have went up to heavyweight and definitely would have beaten the Mayapack kid. But there's somebody good in the state, maybe at heavyweight. I don't know.
No. Part of it, too, was – I don't know if you know this, but I was telling Brock, like, we were trying to train together, and I was telling him, dude, I'm definitely going heavyweight because I want to go heavyweight in college. Yeah. I didn't want to go heavyweight. And I tried bulking up, and I didn't gain the weight.
Yeah.
Like, I was 210 my junior year wrestling 220, and I got up to like 220 at the most my senior year, and I was making protein shake. I was trying to do everything I can to gain weight. And even now I have a problem with that, gaining weight. But
Me too.
Yeah, I remember telling him, hey, I'm like definitely. I think I definitely I kind of screwed him over. Not screwed him over, but I just kind of told him like, yeah, I'm going 220, and like I was trying to work out something because he didn't go to John's at the time because of whatever, politics. I don't know, just because of so he went to like the Olympic in New Jersey, Olympic Wrestling Club. I went there one time, and like I thought I could be a really good training partner as we can just be these like 2 state champs. That's kind of what's thinking about my mind. And I kind of told him like, hey man, like I'm actually like I'm going 220. And I think that kind of fell through like us training and whatnot. So yeah, ended up becoming my like rival, and I wrestled him in the finals my senior year, right? Yeah.
Section
semifinals too.
Semifinals.
But
before we get into all that, Youssif, I want to get your perspective on this because I find like this is because there is some funny stuff there too, but I feel like it's pretty interesting because I've said this to a lot of people, but I don't think they really realize, and I never really got your input on it, but I feel like as an Empire coach, my main focus is working with the Empire people. But then when I'm with the Greeley kids, my main focus is working with the Greeley people. I don't think, but I could be wrong, because I never really talked to you about it. I don't think that I ever, I wasn't in the practice room saying, hey, Brock, like, Youssif's really good at this. Let's defend this, right? It was, what are you really good at, Brock? Let's work on that and get better at it. And I think it was similar what I was doing with you when I would go to the Empire practices, but it put me in a weird position. But I don't think I ever really faltered on either of you guys where I was kind of like, no, I'm not going to help you. I don't think that was ever a thing, but I don't really remember.
That was tough. Yeah, I didn't forget that, but I just you reminded me of that. It's just like you had Brock in your room, you had me and the Empire. We both wanted to do well, but in the day, like you're sitting in Brock's corner. Yeah. Were you sitting? Yeah, you were. I mean, you were sitting in Brock's corner, and that was just kind of just like I think kind of let the best man win. In that sense. It's kind of like when similar like when two Minnesota guys wrestle in a tournament or two guys on the same team wrestle in a match. Like coaches just let them wrestle and let the best guy win. But it's a little different because you're my club coach, but you're his high school coach, and you work with both of us, but you represent the high school at that time, so that's kind of it's tricky, But I think you handled it well. You're a fair guy, but you could have had him okay, he's my guy. Like I'm right now, I'm the Horace Greeley coach. I got to make sure he wins. Do everything he can to win. You could tell him, He likes, knee picks, likes underhooks, 2-on-1s, up inside. You could very well do that, and you'd be well within your right to do that. I think the way you handle it is like for the best way you could have for the care of, me and Brock. Like just you guys go out there, focus on what you got to focus on. That's that.
Well, I say to Bellis all the time that during the season, and I say to the kids too, that Greeley comes first, Empire comes second, and then after that, Empire comes first, and then Greeley comes second for the 9 months, the other parts of the year. But with that being said, knowing a guy like Youssif who really put a lot into it, right? I wasn't about to, these are two high level guys, right? So I'm not about to say like, let me try to derail this guy just because, whatever. And I don't think Brock would want me to do that, right? I think Brock kind of wanted to win on his own anyways. But that didn't mean that if Brock needed a 30-minute hard live go that day, I would be his partner, right? And if that helped him, great. But then if I went to the club after and Youssif needed a hard go, same thing, right? I would go with him, and then that would be that. If I remember correctly, and DeBellis, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm normally pretty vocal in the corner, but I think I was pretty quiet for the Broncos.
Yeah, I don't think I heard you in that corner.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember that. I think
I might have said things to DeBellis here and there to say to Brock or whatever, and DeBellis would obviously say his own thing as well. But like, I don't remember saying much, but I do remember this. I honestly, and I hope if Brock watches is great, but this is my honest opinion. I knew Youssif was a little bit more developed at that time than Brock. Brock was tough. But Brock, skill-wise, wasn't exactly.
Brock was stronger than me, no question, man. That dude, I remember I would come in there.
Both
he would have like his grip. He would like put up like 5 plates on something and just close it and just like do like 20 reps. And I could barely do one. I'm like, this dude's insane. He was talking about how he would like, because we were like starting to talk a bit more. I go, what do you think about this position? Or like, he was like obsessed, but in a good way. And you can see like Tutorial like talking about how like I think Brock like walks around his stance at home, just like he was obsessed with it, but like it was cool because I liked it because he was really like he loved it and I loved it, and I don't think some guys in the club, not talk bad about anyone, but just the idea that like I don't think guys like really loved it as much as I did. Some guys, right?
Some guys.
And when I had Brock, someone my weight like really loved him. I was like, yo, we're gonna freaking get so good, like, and he would like text me about certain positions, we'd work, whatever it is, and like. He was about it, and I was about it too. So I'm kind of sad that I couldn't like gain the weight, or if I could have told him earlier, he could have went heavyweight. But it's worked out that we both 220.
He was a deserving guy for success because he did put it on the line. He worked his tail off.
He really loved it.
He really did.
I love that he did it.
I probably have like 3 Greeley guys, or 3 to 4 Greeley guys. Well, if you count Izzy, I probably have 5 because you got Izzy, Jacob, Schreiber, Aaron Walk, and Brock that really committed to wrestling, that they really wanted to, Sky Williams there too, but we had to push him a little bit. Like, Brock really, really wanted that. But like I said, I think skill-wise, Youssif, and honestly, and this is not a knock at Olympic, but I think Youssif being at Empire more than there probably helped Youssif excel a little bit. And Youssif's a real thinker, and we'll get into that a little bit more at the end there. But, Youssif really breaks his stuff down and puts things out. But with that being said, so or go ahead, Youssif, jump in.
No, I wanted to mention something. So speaking on that note, something similar happened to me again. I wrestled for Coach McCoy at University of Maryland, right? And he moved out to Stanford recently as the RTC coach. So at Senior Nationals a couple weeks ago, for 5th and 6th place. Before that, McCoy, like he is like, like a mentor, a friend, a coach, just someone I can always like count on, be there for me, like, and somebody would call me and check in on me, right? And he's like, how are things going? How's your training doing? And he let me know before the tournament. He goes like, just so you know, we're bringing Dan Chade in, and he's heavyweight, and you might see him. So I might be on the corner. Just be ready for that. And I wasn't even thinking about that. And I think I knew he had a heavyweight. I was like, oh, like I probably won't draw him. But it didn't come to my mind. I'm like, I think that might be weird. Right. So I ended up going for 5th and 6th place, and I was going to have him. And I was coached by McCoy for 4 years, year round, and what's so crazy about that is I heard him, and he even told me too, which is pretty crazy. He was in the other corner. And I think at first he was like coaching me. Like he was like saying stuff, applying to me. And I was like, is he talking to me or him? It was like good positional stuff in general. Like, oh, move your feet. Oh, watch, this, whatever. And then he starts coaching the other guy. And hearing your coach's voice that you're so used to in the other corner, it was just weird. That's not why I lost. I mean, I blew the match. I ended up losing 4-4. I was up 4-0. he took me down, and then at last like 15, 20 seconds, he hit this like nice, he like underhook in, like sucked me by and threw it
He's
down.
good.
It was pretty like he's good, but like I had
You're
no business
better.
losing to him.
You're
You know?
definitely.
Yeah,
You
he's
proved that.
good. He beat me. He got me there, but like I don't think I'd ever lose to him again. And like I said, I know it was losing to him, but like I remember Coy, he spoke to me afterwards because he still wants the best for me. Like, kind of like for you, is just like, I'm his guy too, but like, he has a coach, this Stanford wrestler, but he's only worked with him for a year. He's worked with me for 4 years, knows me well, really helped develop me. So that was pretty interesting too, just kind of like that interesting dynamic a little bit. And how you were coaching me, you got the, opposite corner.
Youssif, I think it might be harder on us than the athletes because the athletes
Probably is. I probably is.
Because it's tough. Like I see you in a bad position, I'm like, oh, he's gonna give up that score. Or I see Brock in a bit, it's like, oh no. But what I was gonna say is this is actually probably pretty interesting. Like I said, what I was saying before is like, I think Youssif was a little higher level. So most of those matches, I knew Brock had a puncher's chance because he's so tough that he might catch Youssif in a bad position type of deal. But I thought that Youssif would win like a typical 5-2, 5-1.
That's how I won a lot of my matches. Even in college, it's just like
I thought Brock would have a hard time getting a takedown. Like it was one of those kind of things. But go at States, and this story, Youssif, but it's actually hysterical for the people that are listening. So DeBellis and I go out for dinner with like A-Rod and a couple of the other coaches, and we're out there. And I guess Vince was the reporter at the time.
Yeah, Vince.
He put out the quotes or whatever.
Brock, yeah, he was.
So I look at the phone, and I'm with DeBellis. I'm like, DeBellis, you gotta see this. And I'm like reading it, and it says something about and it's crazy, like you said, you guys were rivals. You guys, I mean, Brock probably would argue that you weren't rivals because he didn't get the wins, but and Brock has that personality, which I kind of love about him. But you had tough matches, and you draw again in the state semifinals. And honestly, I think the only person that could have possibly beaten you was Brock because he was crazy enough to do it. Right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like he believed when nobody else probably believed that they could do that, and which I loved about him. And he said something about like bringing you in the deep waters and drown. Youssif's a good guy.
He said crazy stuff. Yeah, but he was just like, his time has come.
But
I'm gonna bring him to deep water. I remember that specifically. I'm bringing him to deep waters, and he's not gonna be able to get out.
I'm sorry, Youssif. And again, when the semifinals match happened, I was neutral, but like pretty much neutral. But when
neutral means who you were wanting Brock to win.
No,
we were dying laughing.
When I read that quote, I got fired up. I'm like, this is crazy. Like this guy's crazy. Like I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be World War III. And I think that was the biggest beating you put on him, though.
Yeah, I think I kind of handled him a little, not handled him, but I think it was like 3 takedowns to none.
Yeah,
I didn't turn him, but it was like a dominant like 7-4 win. I think
it was
3 times. He was
never in position to.
Yeah, it wasn't threatened, and it was just like I'm gonna take him down a bunch.
But that's not a knock, and I hope Brock does listen to this because that's not a knock at Brock. I think most years Brock's the state champ at 220. Yeah. I think Youssif was obviously unbelievable. Super 30. I think you took second in Super 32.
Second Super 32.
Second at Flow. Fargo American, and obviously we could talk. We're gonna finish up.
I was ranked 5th at the time in the state, and So I mean.
I think he it was a tough weight class, but he was capable of being a state champion level guy. But that was crazy. But let's not get too into that. Let's jump a little bit into your post high school wrestling because I don't want to keep you too long because I want people to actually watch this whole thing because there's a lot of good stuff on it. So you go to Maryland, and I'm gonna spill a little tea here of my own that because we've talked about this a little bit, but you could obviously jump in and correct if I'm getting things wrong. When you went to Maryland, great high school wrestler, great pedigree. We haven't talked about your high school coaches a lot, but they worked a lot with you as well, and they were very much, Merrimack, I would say, although they're not the biggest fans of Empire, which I personally don't love, but that's on them, and maybe rightfully so on their part, and rightfully so, they got their own beefs there or whatever.
Yeah.
But the program has been going in the right direction, so they care obviously, and they put you in a good position. So everything's going good for you. You're coming from a good club. You had a strong high school program. You cared a lot about wrestling. And here we are in Maryland. You have these good results, and we're expecting big things now, right? And there we are. And your freshman year didn't go maybe as well as you thought it should have gone. And even me as a coach, I'm like, I thought Youssif would make a splash right away. I'm kind of curious of what's going on. And we spoke a little bit about it. And you told me it was something a little bit about a mental adjustment. Like you had to kind of not stop. Something along the lines you said to me, and correct me again if I'm wrong, about like, don't harp if you think this is the best thing ever. get the best out of what you're getting, like if that makes sense. And I don't know, you speak on it a little bit, but when you got there, it wasn't as you know, boom, I'm an All-American like that, right? Like, kind of talk that process, maybe that transition.
Yeah. So the two things that come to mind is like the first thing I think about is the idea that like there's levels. There's always levels to it.
Yeah.
And I can think I'm one of the hardest in the room, or I'm working really hard. But what's everyone else in the country doing? What are the best guys doing? You know, and not thinking about not focusing on the guys, but I thought I was going hard. And I get thrown into the lineup, and going from a high school to Big Ten Division I, it's a big jump, right? And I think I was a little underdeveloped too, in the sense of like, you know, physically I need to like mature. Like I started growing facial hair. Like I came into college at 17 years old.
I shaved this morning, by the way, full shave.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. So I came to college that's funny. I came to college 17 years old, and I was 18 wrestling like almost like men, like 22, 23, whatever it is. But like guys were out muscling me, and like I thought that like, you know, first thing I was thinking about was like I wasn't like doing enough. Like there's so much more you can. There's always a lot. There's so much you can do. You know, you think you lift too hard, you can lift harder. You can do extra workouts, right? The other thing I think you're talking about is you can get caught up in seeing like what Penn State's doing, what's Ohio State, you know, what the lifting program looks like, what's this, what's that, everything needs to be perfect, you know, and like this idea just like, well, they play games, they do this, they do that, and the whole thing too is like facilities maybe. You can get caught up in all these things like, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, you know, oh, they have a dining hall, and they can eat, and it's easier to gain weight because you can just have meals whenever. Like all these things would come into my mind. I'm just like, why am I concerned about any of that stuff? A bad workout done consistently, bad, I mean like, you know, like it's a program or the practice, whatever. It's not like the most perfect practice, or a bad workout done consistently, though, is what I'm trying to say, is better than the best workout done inconsistently. So I gotta make the best thing out of, I gotta make the most out of my workouts. You know, and if I felt like this one lift wasn't the best possible thing I can be doing, because I like to do my own research or my own kind of things. I'm like, why aren't we squatting twice a week? You know, why aren't we doing more explosive stuff? Why aren't we doing more like conditioning? Whatever it is, right? Like, why can't I want to spar more. I want to do situation, whatever I would think, and just like, let me just make the most out of the workout and like buy in more. And that's something I had to like get over the hump for. You know, that's the kind of thing I think you were talking about. Is just like,
would you say, so I have a question, like, so, and I know my opinion on it. I think I know Coach Sabell's opinion on it, but I'll let Coach Sabell's answer too. You know, I've been coaching now for 10 years, but it seems like a lot longer, but it's only been 10 years, but I've been coaching a lot of people because of the club and whatever. I think a big problem with a lot of kids and a lot of their parents, actually, is that they don't buy in, right? Like, or if they do buy in, they halfway buy in because they see Joe Blow over here doing something different. They're like, well, why are we doing this at this practice? Well, I heard at this club that they go live the whole time. Well, I heard that Fox Lane is doing this or whatever. Instead of saying, hey, you know, this guy cares about me, this guy cares about my son or my daughter or whatever it may be, trust the process. Like, that's how you're going to get better. You're in the room now. Let's all do it. Let's do it together and work for a positive, similar goal. What would you say? Like, you think that's the right mentality? Because people do things differently, and maybe it will be a little bit better for you. But instead of harping on that, because you're not getting that right now, right? So is that kind of what you're saying? Like, you're not getting that right now, so make the best of the situation that you're kind of getting, and let's get better.
I think there's something special about having blind faith, but I don't think you need to do that per se. I think it's also okay to question things, but not question it as in, I used to talk to this about with McCoy, is like, not question the sense of just like, this isn't good enough, like question it like, how can I make this better? In that sense. If that it's hard to describe.
Oh, you got it.
It makes 100% sense. Listen to this, Youssif, because like you said, you haven't really listened to many of these yet. But if you go back and watch mine with Camacho or mine with AJ, mine and Coach Sabell's with AJ and Camacho, your year when you were in high school, I was more of your workout partner, and I maybe give you some positive reinforcement. But John was running more things. Even though I was about your age is when I started kind of running more practices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But by the time Camacho and AJ were in high school, I was very much involved. I mean, I guess I was very much. It's just a little different, right?
Yeah.
And Camacho, I said Camacho and AJ made me a better coach because they questioned me a lot.
Mhm.
But they never questioned me in a disrespectful way. They had blind faith. They were bought in. If I told AJ or Camacho to put their head down and run through a wall, they would have done it.
Yeah.
They probably still would to this day, even at NC State, because they have that much faith in me. But with that being said, I would show a single leg finish or something, and then AJ would be like, Coach, if I do it like this, I feel like I get a better angle and da-da-da, whatever. And then we would play with it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I like that. Or you know what? I don't like that because of this. And then we would do this, and this. And I think if you could develop a mind where you can question and still be respectful, that you're going to become the best wrestler. I think that's why
I think that's the best. I do think that's the best. I think there's some great guys. Like I think guys like from Dagestan, there's this. I'm gonna send you this training video of their training camps and stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
A guy like Khabib, I think I don't think he even questions his coach. I think he's fully bought in. I could be wrong, but I really think some of like that Russian or foreigner, it's like absolute blind faith.
Coach says, I do this. Yeah.
I think that works to some extent. I'm not saying those guys weren't blind and had blind faith, or I didn't, but it was like the idea that like I'm faithful, but like I will still question. I'm like, how can I do this better? Is this what's best? And that can be it's gonna be to a flaw sometimes. Where just like sometimes you just gotta buy in, believe it, even if it's not the best thing you can be doing. Belief is so powerful. The power of believing that it is the best can make a difference. So there are so many ways to skin a cat. There are so many. The people that win national titles, they don't all do it the same way. They don't all train the same way. Olympic champ, no matter what, state champ, doesn't matter. Any level of success, they don't do it the same exact way, but there are definitely some commonalities. There's definitely some things that they all maybe do similarly, whether it's that, extra time they put in, watching film, waking up early, making sure they get positional work or technique or, break down film or, meditate. I don't know what it is, right? But there's some commonalities they're going to have.
Would you say thinking what you're doing, like blind faith in a sense in yourself, maybe is a key? Because think about, like with the Greeley guys at least, and I'm sure you guys have done similar stuff, but I make them, Coach DeBellis and I make them do a cool down after every one of their matches, right? Do I really believe that that's going to make or break them as a wrestler? No. But do I, and hopefully they don't watch this and go, oh my God, we're not really going to do cool downs anymore. But like little things, I make them believe, I try to make them believe that you're doing more than the next guy. So if you're doing more than the next guy, you really put that in your mind over and over again. Like, do those extra couple of sprints are they really going to change you? Probably not. Yeah. But if you think that you're doing more and you believe that you're doing more and you believe almost in your own hustle in a sense where like, this is getting me there, you're going to get there. Right. Yeah. If you're questioning everything and doubting everything.
Exactly. It's the doubt, it's believing that this extra sprint, or the fact that like you didn't touch the line, you didn't go all the way. Is that, those 6 inches going to make a difference in your lung capacity and your conditioning? Probably not. But it's that mentality of like you did every rep, you did everything you could in your ability, and believe in your training. You fall back on your training. You don't rise to the occasion. Something in the program, this thing by Navy SEALs or these military guys would come in and we would do these team building activities. And that's what they would talk about is like, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall back in your training. And yes, some guys can turn it up. The whole idea of just like establishing good habits, trying to like, it's not, when they say practice, it's not practice makes perfect practice makes perfect, right? So just kind of like being better and just trying to be precise and trying to like believe in it or do one more rep, whatever it is. I'm like, will one more rep make a difference? Probably not, maybe not, but the fact that you did one more, you can give yourself that credit, And
I think it comes full circle. And Coach, you could jump in on this too. I think it comes full circle because what you're saying is believe in what you're doing, right? Like, so when you're done with high school for some of our guys and that's it. And then for some other guys, it's college. And then for guys like Youssif, it's international, right? Or, there's like like Youssif said, there's levels to it. But when you're done, if you are doing the little things right, and you're doing all that stuff, here comes our character. Here comes our work ethic for work. Here comes our work ethic for family and a dad and our mom for the girl wrestlers or whatever situation we're in. That's why, like, at the end of the day, like, of course, I would love to see Youssif win a Olympic gold medal, and I'm really proud that he's a 2-time All-American. But like, at the end of the day, wrestling's over. So I feel like if you're doing these things properly and you're really putting it all on the line and you're really buying into something and you're really believing in this process, it's going to make you better. And there's no other sport that does that. So I think that's why this sport is so crucial. And I really hope that even with COVID that, we don't lose too many numbers and we keep going in the right direction. But something I wanted to touch on, Youssif, and Coach, you're going to get a kick out of this. Like, the guy's a student of the sport, right? He's a student of life, though. He's a student of everything, because the glasses he's wearing right now are those the glasses for blue light?
Yeah.
So he's wearing the blue light glass, and you can speak on all this, Youssef, but I want to like point out some of the things we've talked about. So those are like, that's good for his. We don't want to get all physics on us right now, but that's for his lifestyle choices. He uses red lights for his lifestyle choices. He's done some functional patterns, which is a different way of training. Yeah. When me and we had a Thanksgiving practice the other day, and he was drilling with Jacob Ferreira, and we were going over like a high crotch situation, right? And I was asking him, because now Youssef is far more experienced than I ever was, right? So I can learn from him, and I'm asking him questions, and we're going over a position. And today, all of a sudden, I get a random Instagram message of a video of some Kyle Dake going through these positions, right? And it's Youssef talking about it and making a lot of sense, and it's something that I could use. He really is a deep thinker, and I think that's gonna help him way past wrestling. But Youssef, maybe talk about some of the things you try to do maybe to get a jump start over the competition.
Yeah, and the thing is, going back to what you're saying, like, carry over, it's gonna come back around. So the fact that like you do every rep or you go the furthest, I think it's gonna carry on to your work life. But to go into like personally, like, look, I won't get too deep into it. Just the idea of just like, I think blue light at night stimulates you. It can stop your melatonin, and it can wake you up, right? It can kind of prolong your sleep. Will these glasses make me win a match? No, these matches will make me win a match. But it's giving me, first of all, I believe in them. It's giving me that mental advantage that like I'm taking care of my sleep. I fall asleep more easily. I feel tired when I wear them. I'm gonna get that advantage when I wear them. So that's kind of thing. And I looked into red light therapy, and I have this little like panel that in the morning I'll stand in front of first in the morning, or if I have a little like ache or pain, my elbow. There's a lot of research behind it with inflammation, collagen production, all those kind of things that can help with, right? Just trying to get little advantages, and like it's funny you mentioned it just happened to be Kyle Dake. He's the one that he did this stuff, and that's who I learned from. And there was that video of him showing that high crotch. I thought it was really interesting. But he's some guy that like he was the first guy to talk about it. He's like really into it, and like also like functional patterns. And I don't do it full time right now, and I don't train that way. But like I do incorporate it to some capacity, and rolling out. I think it's very good. Just not just for wrestling, just for health in general and feeling good. I like to feel good, and I like to take care of my body. And I don't know if all these things like there are guys that don't do that, and they're still gonna win. They're still gonna win. Still gonna do well. So this is what I do. This is what makes me feel good. That's what I believe in. And that's kind of the thing I get, and I thought I'm getting a little bit of advantage of. But you can't skip the hard work. You still got to do all these other things. This is supplemental.
But
right?
think about this, right? Would you say at your level of wreshling, and Coach Sabella, I feel like I gotta get you jumped in here because
listen, I'm enjoying this interview. Don't worry about me. I'm just sitting.
He's awesome. Watching it. But like,
I just got the best seat.
But at Youssef's level, right? It's a level, like I said before, that I've never felt before. I love wrestling, so I watch it, avidly. I'm a big fan of high level wrestling, but it's a game, even as a spectator, right? It's a game of inches, right, for these guys. And if it's a game of inches and you're doing everything you could do to get a little advantage, and even if it's a minute little advantage, maybe that minute little advantage is going to make you that single leg that you didn't finish the first time, because you got better night's sleep because you wore those glasses the night before you went to bed, right? Why wouldn't you take advantage of the things you do? But even as a high school wrestler, Youssef, I used to bust his chops all the time. He would come into practice, and he'd have his little roller.
Oh my God!
I'd look at my fake watch. I'd be like, "Yo, what are we doing? Let's go!"
Yeah.
Now I'm 33. I wish I did what he was doing. Now I could barely walk.
Yeah. No, that stuff got a little crazy because I would take like 20 minutes warming up. I don't need 20 minutes to warm up. It took out of my practice, which is what I'm there for. I had this like other thing, this like voodoo floss, what it's called. You like put it around your elbow and it restricts the blood, and then you move it around, put some range of motion. You take it off. It's like a tourniquet, You take it off, and then it's supposed to pump new fresh blood in there. All these things. I've always been interested in it, but like, there's all these stuff on the side, right? That like. I can get too much into it. So something like I stopped doing is I wouldn't eat like grains, right? Because I think grains can be inflammatory. and it's like it can deter you. But like the thing that I had to get away from is that like it can't affect me. I can't let it affect me. So like the point I'm saying is like if I don't use my glasses one night or I had some pasta, yeah, like let it be a human being. Like enjoy these foods, whatever it is,
Roll
right?
with the punches a little bit.
Yeah, just most of the time I'm doing the right things. I'm doing these things to take care of myself. I'll be okay. Most of the folks like I can't get too deterred off all these other side things and rolling out and recovery. Like the folks needs to be on training. If I'm spending my free time like watching videos on, um, different rehab techniques or different things about health, like it's still good, but like it needs to like I can be watching film instead. And that's something that I personally have to learn is like don't spend too much time, listening to these podcasts or whatever, like spend it on wrestling or watching wrestling or getting an extra workout in because that's what's going to make the biggest difference. And then you throw in all these other things on the side, like eating the best foods you can eat, and making sure you're hydrated. And I bought this this powder I put in just to water and it has magnesium, all the electrolytes, whatever, and it's better than Gatorade, all this kind of stuff. And I like doing that. Like that's like fun for me to like kind of research this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like I need to focus. Like everything else is supplemental. And, like I need to have the focus on like working out, doing the hard things, and then I can start worrying about all these other little supplemental and extra things. But yeah, you can't deter from going hard and pushing yourself. And sometimes you do these extra things. You think like, oh, I'm doing all this. So I don't gotta like not push yourself as hard, but you don't have to like you can. Oh, I don't want to. I have an Oura ring, right? That tells me how I slept. And like on the week of competition this week, I won't wear it because it doesn't matter. The work's been done, right?
Yeah.
I like to see like how did I sleep? What can I do to make it better, right? But when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter how you slept. It doesn't matter if I slept for 5 hours or I didn't sleep at all last night. I still gotta go out and compete. You might not feel your best, still gotta go out there and do it. So you try to do all these things to feel good and feel great. And it's good. I want to feel good when I work out and I train and I practice, but you also got to be able to wrestle when you don't feel good. A lot of times that happens. You wrestle in a tournament, 4 matches in, you're like, damn, I'm kind of hurting right now. But you still got to go hard,
Sometimes your best performances come out of like unnecessary circumstances, I feel like.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You surprise yourself a little bit. But Youssif, I want 2 more questions that relate to wrestling a little bit, and then we'll wrap this sucker up.
Yep.
But the 2 things I want to bring up is for the people that are watching, hopefully, again, like people make it far into these because like Coach Chabelis always says to me, I always get like nervous about it. I'm like, not nervous, but I'm like, because there's so much good information. Camacho's was so good. Like AJ's was good. All these guys had such, Malikian's was good yesterday or Friday. They're all so good. But they have like an hour and a half sometimes. And sometimes people don't have the patience. Hopefully they have but DeBella says, if they care, they'll watch. Right. And hopefully they care enough to watch a guy of Youssif's caliber and listen to what he has to say. But about a week or 2 ago, he won U23 trials, which is a very elite tournament. And he dominated pretty much most of the way. And then he got to the finals, and he wrestled this guy, like I said earlier, Anthony Cassiope, who's the Iowa heavyweight right now. I believe he was ranked 2nd or 3rd in the country before COVID canceled the tournament. He was behind Gable. Maybe he was ranked 2nd. I don't even know. But he was up there.
I think I was like, it might be 3rd or 4th. It was Gable, Mason, and I think it was Cassiope.
Okay.
Or Hilger.
So he's obviously a very elite heavyweight in the country, and they wrestled last year at U23 trials, and Cassiope teched Youssif.
Yeah.
You don't see Youssif get teched very often. I remember even as a guy that knows Youssif well, and obviously I follow high-level wrestling, but of course if I see a guy like Youssif in the bracket, I'm hitting that ding button, and I'm trying to follow his matches, and I don't see him get teched like that often. So I'm like, geez Louise, I'm like, what the heck happened in this match? Long story short, they meet again this year, but in the finals, and Youssif wins, and it's a hard-fought match. But watching the match, he looked like Youssif looked like the way better wrestler. But he had to this kid is big, DeBellis. This kid is a big boy, and he had to run through him a couple times, and he had to get these angles. And my question for Youssif is, how do you get tagged by a kid? And I'm not even talking about the score of it.
Yeah.
Mentally, how do you kind of deal with, hey, I got tagged by this kid it's not like, me getting tagged by Khalid Dassan and as a high schooler, not KD, win Khalid Dassan, high school Khalid Dassan, and then I have to go out there and try to beat him. We're high school wrestlers. Maybe I can turn it around but this kid's high level as they come. How do you mentally prepare yourself for that and kind of say, all right, I'm going to get back this time? How did you kind of do that?
last time I wrestled him, like or my 2 times ago I wrestled him, I guess, like the U23s, which was for third and fourth. The match didn't really matter per se, and I went out there. I tried to give it to him, and I couldn't. Like I had nothing for him that match. He beat me pretty good. And the second time I was just like, you know, maybe it was because the lesson on the line. It also helped me with the mentality because there's no world championships, unfortunately. But I'm just like, I'm just go out and wrestle. It doesn't matter in the past. I've been getting some great training in. I've been, before the U23s that time, also when I lost to him, I was traveling a lot. I was like every weekend, like if it wasn't competing at the Open or something, I was like visiting RTCs and stuff. I wasn't the smartest things, for my training. So I was training all week, and I went to California like a week before that tournament. It just wasn't smart. Some of the things I was doing. California to visit the Fresno State RTC. But yeah, this time it's like, let me just go out and just wrestle. Because I had some close matches that tournament. I mean, like first one, I had like a 5-0 match. Second match, I had 4-2. Then I started opening up. Let me just go out. Let me just wrestle. Don't hold it behind. I started like get that snowball effect rolling down, and just kind of like believe in my trainer. I've been going hard for a long time. This COVID thing during COVID, like I've been just like pushing myself and like I've been practicing. We do matches. I have great like partners, and I, like I mentioned before too, with Kuhn or Mason Paris too, like those guys push me, man. And like, so I was just like, let me just, don't even think about it. I'm not trying to think about him or the fact, I didn't think I got tagged. Like, I was thinking that, I lost him by 7 points. Then after that tournament, I looked it up. I was like, wow, I lost him 13-2. Let me just go out there and wrestle my hardest. See what happens. Let it fly. And that's what I did. Like, I shot more in that match than any other match. That tournament, and then for a while, really. And I kind of like guys would tell me like, that's like where did he come from? Like that's Youssif I know. And like sometimes I kind of get away from it because these like bigger names or whatever it may be, and you kind of like you get more timid and like you just gotta let it go. And it's like it's me. It's like it's in my head, and I sometimes I like block it from coming out. And that's the kind of thing I let that barrier down. Let yourself be free. I feel like the longer you like when I wrestle more over time, sometimes like I might shoot less because it's more risk, but Mr. Shots you don't take. You know what I'm saying? So it was just kind of just like,
you were taking risks shooting on this kid, you said. Not taking risks because you're confident in talent, but watching it, Coach Sabellas, this kid's a big boy. But like he said, there's the Youssif people know because he's so capable. Like a normal person, it's taking a risk because this kid's a mountain of a human being. To put yourself under him is like a little dangerous. But like you were moving so fluently through him. It was like you're cutting through, slicing cheese or something. I don't know. But like you were going through him. I was watching on my phone. I'm like, whoa! Like I said to him like after the match, I was like, how the hell did you even do that? Like it was very impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a mental change. It was me that was holding myself back, and I think I was capable of doing that attempt the first time around. So I just like I did it.
You did it.
Yeah.
You put the pieces together.
Exactly.
2 other things I want you to comment on, Youssif, and then we're gonna wrap it up. And I'll ask both of them, and then Coach Boss, obviously, I'm sorry if you have anything, you jump right in there and ask too.
No, I'm good. I'm listening.
But the 2 things, and then as we normally do, is Coach Bellis will get his last words, I'll get my last words, and you'll get your last words and wrap it up. But before we get there, one, I want you to talk quickly about as long as you want to, but like whatever, about your training situation at the Cliff Keen RTC. So guys that are listening, Youssif is a Marinette guy, went to Maryland, 2-time All-American there, was figuring out kind of what he was going to do post-college, maybe stay at Maryland, whatever, decided to go to Cliff Keen, Michigan, and they have around Youssif's time, maybe a little older than him, they had an NCAA finalist and Adam Kuhn, and they have now an up-and-comer who's probably the number 2 guy in the country, but some people think he could beat Gable Stevenson and Mason Paris. So he has 2 of the best heavyweights in the country that are really competitors and teammates at the same time because they kind of have similar goals. So I want you to talk on that little situation a little bit, Youssif, and then when you finish talking about that, maybe a word of advice to the young wrestlers listening to like a guy like Nick DeBellis, like Coach's son, like if you want this, what should you be doing and what should you be thinking?
Yeah, training situation wise, like I don't know if I can ask for more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I took a couple visits to RTCs, and it was like clearly this was the best option for me because I have Mason Paris, Adam Kuhn, like you said. Like Mason is a guy that shoots a lot, can work on my leg defense, and I shoot more on him than Kuhn is a big bear, guy, can work on upper body stuff too, but also it's hard to finish on as well. So it's just like I have the best of both worlds, two very different styles of heavyweight as well. One guy that shoots and one guy that's more upper body, Greco, So it's really great, and the coaches, Bormet, Trella, Boyer, Russell, and, Coach Bela Glazov, Sergey Bela Glazov, one of the best wrestlers in the history of the sport. Like there's a lot of resources there, and it was tough moving out to a place, like you didn't really, I don't have any, a lot of friends out here. When I first moved out here, he's kind of starting over again. The wrestlers, got on the team and stuff. So it was nice, but train, like I said, it's nice working out with the college guys too, and kind of like being in the college room. But you're working, you all work towards something similar, but like instead of being a team, you're like at that international level or like that higher level too. So it's kind of like trying to be a leader in some aspects too, and like you can't, not so you can slack off in college, but also just like there's levels, right? Like high school to college to this, and like you kind of a different space, and you kind of just like want to make the most out of your workouts and maybe staying after and such. But like I said, Clifton Wrestling Club, it works, and it's kind of hard to explain too. Like RTCs, I don't know if guys know it. In high school, I didn't really know that much either. It's kind of an up and coming thing as well. They work hand in hand with Michigan. So and right now, because of COVID, we're at a different location. But before that, we're just working out with all their college guys and able to lift, use their facilities, and it just works out like really, really great. And it's cool because you get to like also it's a win-win situation. So even though you're a pro athlete or you're pro, like you're helping develop college guys. So imagine like an NFL was working out with college teams, like they can get their hands on, you can still get good workouts in, obviously, because they're still good high level, but also you're helping the guys up and coming get better. That's why some of the best wrestling programs have the best RTCs. Penn State has a great RTC, Ohio State, Michigan, and some of the, Minnesota. They have great programs, and they also have great regional training centers, and that's for a reason, right? And then to touch on the other question you were kind of asking was about like what's my advice?
What advice for a young guy coming up if they want to be successful in the sport? And actually, before you even get in that, just to give you a little preface too, is I want to hear that, but I also would like to hear, and it could be a short, quick answer, it could be a longer answer, whatever makes more sense of it. But I talked about it in Camacho's interview. I think there's a girl, I coach that old girls team in the Bronx now too, which I love to do. And there's this girl Deja that was so good during like COVID. She was doing Zooms with me. She was going for runs with me when it all stopped. Yeah. But now with the uncertainty of, there being a season for them and all of this stuff, she's kind of fallen off a little bit. And I try to explain to her how important the sport is outside of wrestling. I know I'm all over the place a little bit, but maybe a little advice for the younger guys coming up of what they should do, maybe how they commit to it. And maybe for a girl like Deja, why should you do it? Why is it worth it?
So word of advice would be, or a couple things would be like, you have fun with it, right? And you might not love training every day. And I always say this, like, you got to have fun with it though. Like, you got to have fun with it. And even if you don't love training, it's okay because competing can be fun. Yeah. If practice isn't fun, competition isn't fun, and winning isn't fun, losing, whatever it is, like, then there's no point doing the sport, right? You got to have fun with it, right? But there'll be some grinds. It feels good to have you work all spring and summer and the delayed gratification of winning a state title, whatever. So first thing I'll say is like find ways to keep it fun and exciting for yourself, or get yourself motivated before practice, whether it be some music and getting yourself excited or making it fun for you, trying some moves out you just saw, whatever, or you're learning new things. Other thing, one of the most important things I think in life in general is like set values and set your goals. So what do you value? Do you that just carries on to life too. But for the rest of the season, it's just like you value winning or you value wrestling. You want to do well in the competition. You gotta set value-based goals on what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and also setting SMART goals, right? And it's an acronym, SMART, measurable, attainable, realistic, and it's something with time and just to you can just type in SMART goals, right? The point being is that you want to set goals like, okay, I want to get better at double leg. How, right? What does that mean? right? So I want to work on a double A takedown 10 minutes twice for 10 minutes after practice twice a week. Set that goal, and then you can set like little like checkpoint goals, like you work on those things, but also like the goal is to be a state champ, right? So I think setting goals is really important and making a plan of how you're going to get there, right? Like writing out practices. And like I said, I did a lot of extra workouts. That's what separated me, because I had to get better at a faster rate than other guys. I was in the sport for not as long, right? Or I got hurt. So I had to do more to catch up to those guys, right? That's kind of I looked at it. For me, that's what I needed to do. And if you're at a lower level, or you're not where you don't want to be at just yet, you got to do more to catch up. Essentially, you gotta put in the work, right? So I would say is like set these goals and have stepping stones and checkpoints where the goal is to, you don't want to chase too many things. You want to say, oh, I want to be state champ, national champ, this and that. Like you want to focus on one thing, like what's in front of you, right? If you try to chase two rabbits, you'll never catch one of them. That's one saying. I don't know who said it, but some athlete said it, right? You got to chase what's right in front of you first. And
I'm
then
gonna reuse that.
Yeah, you have things on the way to getting there, right? So I'm gonna like, sleep wise, I'm gonna sleep for 7 hours a night, right? Like at 11 o'clock, and then you set a goal maybe like athletically, because it's not just about wrestling too, but other things as well. Like, okay, I'm gonna spend 10 minutes twice a week. You write it down and you measure if you accomplish it. Journals or have something, or your phone, an app. You don't have to write so much down, right? And maybe you said something, food wise. Like you get to you eat these certain things every day or whatever it may be, right? Just set some goals, and you don't have to get, like I said, too crazy with it. Don't make it something you can't even maintain or not realistic, but set yourself goals. And that's the thing I would say. Have fun with it, set yourself goals, and learn to enjoy the hard stuff, right? Like, you suffer, and it makes other parts of your life easier. And to get off into that, or to get off into or to get into the thing with Deja, or just in general, the idea of working and having uncertainty, what's the downside is you put all this extra work and you don't have a season. Another thing that can happen too is you can put all this extra work in and you might not accomplish your goals. But if you don't put the work in, you have no chance of accomplishing it, right? So the idea of just like, it's worth trying, and that's, I think that goes into anything. Like you have to try to even have a chance. And even if you do try your best and you give it all you can, I don't think the Olympic gold medalists and silver medalists, Olympic gold and silver medalists work any less like hard. One works harder than the other. I don't know. Maybe, right? Or the number one guy, number two guy in the USA, like at a certain weight class. It might be luck, it might be timing, it might be a certain position, a certain move you hit, whatever it may be. Like, if there's like, but it doesn't mean that guy regrets working so hard if he took second place, right? Or whatever. If you lose, just like, it's not about that. It's about like, if you value wrestling, you value the sport, you value what it can teach you when you set these goals, you might not accomplish it, but that's okay, because it's about the journey too. Right? Like it's about these practices and grinding, understand like it takes grit and it's hard and you're not gonna always love it, but you still gotta go through it, and it's just like it helps develop you. So even if you have uncertainty, you're still working out. It's good for you health wise. And if there is a season, you're ready to go. A lot of people might not be ready to go. That's my advice I would give, is just kind of like, you gotta just
let me give you a little backstory, Youssif, on her too, because I love Deja, and that's why I want her to watch this, because she might not make it 2 hours or however long we've gone on this. But, I'm gonna screen record it and send it to her, because you're a guy, second in the world, and a super successful guy that knows, and obviously a lot outside of wrestling. Right now, she is a high school student. She's a senior in high school. She was a first year wrestler, 10th grade year. Last year got canceled because of COVID. Super athlete, but good kid. Like, DeBellis met her before, like, she's a great kid. Helps her grandma out, does a lot of good things. Ace student. Like, I really like, kid. I don't want to say student because she could probably get a little higher grades. Her grades are good, but they could be better. I'm sure. I don't even know. Like, she doesn't struggle in school, but she could definitely, I'm sure, get them up a little higher. Anyhow, my point is that now she's doing remote learning, and she's 17 and she wants to, make some money, and she went out there and got a job, and she works at McDonald's, which is, for a 17-year-old, you're really not going to get much more than that right now, right? So she's doing that. She's working full time, and I'm sure she wants to see her friends here and there, right? But I want her to believe, and if you don't agree with this, be honest, I want her to believe that I feel like I could get her past McDonald's, right? I feel like I could push her in the right direction where she, maybe wrestling will give her a leg up in her life outside of the sport. And I think having connections with people like me and John and Coach DeBellis and people that are willing to do whatever it takes for her, I think that has more weight than maybe the money that she's getting in her pocket now that she feels. And I'm proud of her. I'm extremely proud of her. A lot of 17-year-olds wouldn't be able to do all that schoolwork and work and do all those things. But I think I would love her to realize that, this sport and the people that you meet through the sport and the work ethic and character you get out of the sport will, be far more important than, whatever else. That one, you got to make a decision, right? We're working full time. We're going to school full time. Am I going to go hang out with my friends, or am I going to go to a couple wrestling practices a week? Your friends will always be there. So I don't know. You think she should listen to me, correct?
Yeah, just speaking on that, like I don't know the situation, like financially, like you might need to work to get by. But another thing I would say is the thing that gives you the most returns financially is investing in education first, right? That's the thing that's most important. Yeah. And then, like you're saying about wrestling, women's wrestling is coming up. Right, I think a lot of opportunities scholarship-wise, or to get money out of school. That work is work, and there's no knock working at McDonald's at all. Like work is work,
especially at her age.
I respect that exactly.
I respect that she's out there hustling.
But if you can put more into maybe your schoolwork and get better grades, you can save a lot of money in college. You can get academic scholarship, or you can you invest into your wrestling, and you can have that pay off for you later on because there's other opportunities that will come. Right, and it's hard because I think a lot of good athletes, to some aspect, have had the chance to go to afford club wrestling or privates and club camps and clinics. And that there's a cost to it. Some kids can't afford that. That's why something like Beat the Streets is amazing. Well,
not to cut you off though, but for girls like Deja and anybody that's in TAF, they come to the club with me, and that's not a thing. So they're good, they could train there. But that does make sense.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I agree. I mean, I think like. You think at 15, 16, 17, 13, whatever, you think you know what you're talking about. There's some people that have been doing it a little bit longer than you have. Not saying that just because you've been doing it longer means you know more, but sometimes it does, and I think in this case, I think it's important to understand that, like, you can have, this coach you talked about, like similar. You can do social life, be good at academics, athletics, right? So you can pick 2 out of the 3. Right. So if you want to be good in your sport and be good in school, you're probably gonna have to sacrifice some of your social life. You can maybe have a good social life and do well in your sport. Not saying you have to go party and drink, but you can hang out with a lot of friends, but you might not do as well in school. Or you can do great in school, have a great social life, and suffer in your athletics, right? Typically, you have to pick 2 out of 3, right? You have to make some kind of sacrifice. And some people can manage their time better and maybe not get hit as hard, in one of those categories. But typically, that's the case. And you're saying right now, you got school, you got wrestling, you got school, you work full time, and you got you want to hang out with your friends, and at the very end you want to sprinkle some wrestling practices, right? So maybe you can do all 3. School, you can do school wrestling and sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around. School wrestling and work, but it might not be enjoyable, right? So you want to hang out with your friends. So it's kind of just tough. Maybe go down to part-time work. You spend more time studying and hanging out with your friends or practicing. It's tough, but like
you can make it work though. I mean, at the club, and you would say too, and I don't want to get too far into this because now we'll wrap up. No, you're awesome because you're giving her a real answer, and hopefully she does watch that because I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. But being hooked up with the club, there's a lot of people there too. There's a lot of job opportunities there too. There's job opportunities with John. There's ways that we could supplement and we can make it work. But the only reason I bring her up is because she's such a good kid, and I want to see her go in the right direction. She will. I mean, even without coming to practice all the time, that girl will figure it out. She's that type of person. But you would love her, Youssif. She's awesome. And the only downfall in Deja, she tried to drown Nikki, Coach DeBellis' son, in the pool. She can't swim very well, and she saw Nikki. She was like trying to get help, and she like dumped him, and it was hilarious. So Deja, if you do watch this, it wasn't cool that you tried to take a 10-year-old's life. We need to talk about that. That was not cool. But anyway, so hopefully people watch this. Coach DeBellis, you got your last words. I'll say a little bit, then Youssif can wrap us up, and we'll be done.
Yeah, Nikki's still traumatized from that drowning incident.
Damn it, Deja.
But, Youssif, great job. Great interview. Great insight. We're really looking forward to seeing how far you could take this ride, man. congratulations and thanks for doing the interview.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too long-winded because I tend to do that. I mean, back in Youssif's days, I probably talked a little bit too much after practice, and then I still do that. Kids will probably start looking at their watches. But as Coach Shabbat said, we're proud of you. I enjoy watching your journey. It's as a big fan of wrestling at a high level, it's really fun to watch somebody that I knew as close, as I am to Youssif, to watch him at that level. It makes me love the sport even a little bit more because I know him, and to watch him compete, I know kind of how he ticks and, things that go on in his head and how he's thinking and how he's training and where he's training. And, having a little insight of that, it's almost like Youssif was talking before about the NFL guys helping the college guys. It's like I get to watch an NFL wrestling level guy and I could text them after and ask them questions about it. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. Always willing to help, always willing to give back. If I do ask Youssif a question, whether it's about wrestling or if I bring something up about the red light he does or the glasses, or whatever, because we've talked about that before too. He'll send me a long thing about it and really detailed. Like he'll take his time out to really answer the question and try to give back, which I appreciate. And again, that goes back to character. We also have Isabella Garcia at Michigan now. And she loves wrestling, right? And she's in a new home and they've got women's wrestling there. I reached out to Youssif to reach out to her. Boom, done. Talked to her, had a nice conversation with her, made her feel comfortable. We appreciate stuff like that. Like Coach said, we're very excited to see where you go. It's pretty funny. I could picture you walking into that room as a big, tall, but not fully grown into yourself yet, 9th or 10th grader with double knee pads on, to now this grown man who's out there winning U23 nationals, taking second in the world, and who could be on an Olympic team. It wouldn't be. It's very feasible, right? And you're there, so I think that's really cool. We're so proud, and we're excited. I'm excited to see where else this takes you. But Youssif, you could wrap this sucker up for us.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I mean, thanks for having me on here, guys. I really like these conversations. I remember I would say after talking to Tora and John and my coaches, and it's really nice. And you it kind of keeps me grounded a little bit when I get to speak to these guys, and I appreciate you guys for that. And something I would say talking about that is just to wrap it up is just, and I hate saying this, right, in the sense of like, oh, time goes by fast, but it does, right? It doesn't feel like it when you're, cutting weight. It doesn't feel like it when you're studying, whatever. But enjoy the good times and embrace the hard times. And really enjoy the journey because you're gonna blink your eyes, and your high school career's gonna be done, your college career's gonna be done, and I'm still lucky I'm still training. What's that?
I say that all the time. But
and it's just like you don't want to. Oh, okay, they're just saying that they're older or whatever, and I know I'm getting older, but like just enjoy it. And like I said, that's something so important to me. Embrace it, and embrace difficult times, and like I said, enjoy the good times, and and have fun with it. And that's something that's so important. I want to end on that note because it's just like that's what I think is the most valuable, and enjoying the journey, because that's what it's about. It's about the people I meet, the connections I make. At the end of the day, like when I'm looking back on it, I'm not gonna think about, and yeah, I might think about these wins and losses. I'm thinking more of the people I met, the places I got to go to, the things I got to do, and I remember how people talked to me, how people treated me. And I'm not remember how how good this wrestler was, or if he won this one match or this one tournament, and those are important. I want to leave my legacy, but that's what I care about, is like meeting good people and forming good connections and relationships and developing that character and having that that network and the kind of things that like wrestling is about you, is that the good characteristics you want anyone, the good character you want anyone, like you said. So like I said, a lot of fun with this. This was really enjoyable, and I hope hope somebody made it that far. Good job. And you can find me on Instagram at y_Hemi285 if you want to ask me some questions. I don't have a big following just yet, so you can shoot that over. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. So thanks, guys.
I would add, if anybody made it this far, state champ this year. If anybody watched a 2-hour interview about wrestling during COVID, props.
Automatic state champ.
I feel like Youssif would have done it as a high school guy. I feel like I probably would have done it. And I think if you're that guy, you're that guy. But Youssif, hang on for a second. I'm gonna stop recording. But you're the man. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.